Ready.
I have to be.
All right.
Good morning, my name is Spencer Boyer, and today I will be discussing the present threat of conformity in the United States. Throughout the stimulus, I noticed that all the materials could be applied to the diversity of America, as we are a modern nation built from varying ideals and peoples. Displayed in the stimulus source, The Namesake, which tells the story of a Bengali family in America. With the theme of conformity also persistent, I began to think about the process of Americanization, which led me to wondering how all this could connect to conformity within the United States. The conformity that has held back America from its founding goal of being an egalitarian sanctuary for all is the process known as Americanization. It is the process in which culturally unique entities are changed to conform to the ideal American picture. The problem with the ideal American picture is that it does not truly represent America and suppresses those who are different from the existing population. For example, one of the most infamous and brutal acts of Americanization was that of the Native Americans in the late 19th century, who saw their cultures extinguished by boarding schools who Americanized them with the doctrine of kill the Indian in him and save the man, a brutal attempt to remove an aspect of North American culture to force that culture to conform with the civilized United States culture. But why does this matter? Something that happened decades or even centuries ago. Why does it matter? Well, it matters because it shows the devastation of this concealed sin, an unchecked phenomenon that most Americans do not recognize still permeates today's American society. But why should everyday Americans care about something that only affects culturally unique peoples like immigrants and Native Americans? Well, it is the simple fact that conformity is a threat to all, no matter if it affects you personally or not, because it threatens the very ideals this nation was built upon, including the right to live freely without government intervention or the fear of persecution by your peers. My research question asks simply, to what extent does Americanization contribute to conformity in the United States? I formulated from this question and subsequent research that Americanization has led to conformity among culturally unique peoples. I also state this dangerous phenomenon cannot go on, and it is the duty of all to enact immediate solutions to halt this from ever harming anyone else and eradicating more cultures. My first solution, which is tailored to convenience, is allowing the status quo to continue until the problem works itself out. This seems practical to some in society, as they believe costly reforms or other efforts will not work. However, many in society who subscribe to this solution do not share this ideology, but are disinterested in the topic and need to be educated so they understand why it is important to care and not perpetuate the same useless cycle fueled by ignorance. My second solution is defaulting to old solutions for culturally unique peoples brought from the past, such as withdrawing from influencing factors of American life entirely. But in a world of globalization and mass communication, it would be hard for this solution to even be possible, as this was tailored to the world of old, where the radio and TV were limited and the best form of influence came from others you talked to face to face. My third and final solution is comprehensive government and community strategy to tackle not only Americanization, but also conformity and uniformity that is a persistent feature of life in the United States. Starting with education, my solution calls for increased funding for culture and language courses like AP Spanish Language and Culture, which helps people understand the language, but also the culture behind it. This would prove to be beneficial, as according to the American Councils for International Education, only 20% of Americans have studied a foreign language in schooling, which sounds decent at first mention, but those are staggering numbers in reality when it is considered that 80% or more of America is monolingual or is restricted in their understanding and use of a foreign language. That also means that their capabilities to communicate and understand another culture fully. In addition, this strategy also calls for a government-sponsored curriculum that includes cultural competence and understanding. This component is based off the research of Maria Rosario Guzman and her colleagues, who researched the potential capabilities of cultural competences effects on society's tolerance of different people. If this educational component were to be implemented correctly and with proper funding by government entities like the Federal Congress, this would prove to be a potent first step in America's fight against conformity induced by Americanization. But what about after school? What will be in place to help those currently in the United States facing aspects of Americanization that cannot be solved by education, at least in the short term? This is where community building will come in via an increase in culture fairs and sponsored events or programs promoting diversity and inclusion. This can be aided by local government efforts to streamline the land permit process for cultural events. This measure is essential to this strategy as it gives hands-on, in-person experiences with various diverse cultures, which is what needs to be actively promoted in the community. One such example is PhilFest in Tampa, Florida, which is the largest Filipino culture fair in Florida. This exposes the Tampa Bay area to the culture of the Philippines and its people, a less recognized Asian Pacific culture in the Tampa region compared to that of China or Korea. This solution is geared towards education as it works, and is especially tailored towards the education of the youth because by prompting good behaviors in the community and promoting diversity and understanding in the classroom, these influences, according to Kathy Doe, will help influence adolescents' mental development towards such good details of reality. In conclusion, Americanization poses a grave threat to not just America's founding principles, but also its greatest strength, our diversity. The 35th President of the United States, John F. Kennedy, said it best: "Conformity is the jailer of freedom and the enemy of growth," which is why it cannot coexist with the future America and why we must enact immediate solutions like a comprehensive educational and cultural strategy to combat it. Thank you. Here's my works cited.
All right, excellent work, Spencer. All right, so my first question for you is, how did your research question evolve as you moved through the research process?
Repeat that question, please.
Yeah. How did your research question evolve as you moved through the research process?
Well, my research question evolved only slightly because of the fact that I already had a good understanding of what I was going to research after looking through the stimulus. And really it only evolved a little bit with solutions because originally there weren't very apparent solutions until I did further research like cultural competence and language courses, which were a major factor in promoting diversity and inclusion because it would help open doors for people who want to keep their culture, but also other people who want to understand that culture to help preserve the diversity of the United States and its communities.
All right. Last question for you. How did you use the conclusions or questions of others to advance your own research?
Well, I used Kathy Doe, and I used Maria Rosario Guzman, and various other educational institutions, as well as the American Councils for International Education, who did the poll on, or rather the report on the language courses, who takes them in the United States, and those helped me formulate my own solutions that would help diversity, inclusion, and overall just help benefit the United States' diversity.
Good job.